Have you noticed, Leo, that modern content tends to be quite short? Episodes once were long to provide a prestigious feeling of depth for the curious and impressing others with your media literacy, of course.
These days, you're important if you record and share at all. Ain't that the truth? Good Lord.
Short form is the death of us all. Welcome to Gom Jabbar, your guide to the iconic world of Dune. We'll be exploring the themes, philosophies, and characters found in the sandy depths of this vast universe, from Frank Herbert's groundbreaking novels to the adaptations on film and TV. My name's Abu.
My name is Leo.
And Leo, today, we're going to war.
Oh, yes we are. Oh my God, yes we are. Holy shit. Can I just say, forgot the chapters that we read today, just remembered. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. These are maybe the most action-packed chapters that Frank Herbert has ever written in the Dune saga. It's quite a shock, and I can't wait to get into it. But of course, folks, before we get into today's episode and continue our deep dive chapter-by-chapter analysis of Chapterhouse Dune, let's take care of some quick housekeeping, starting with our spoiler warning. Folks, you've been hearing this now for 6 books. You know the drill. As usual, today's episode will contain no spoilers beyond the pages and books that we have covered thus far on the podcast. So as long as you did today's assigned reading, you should be good to go.
Indeed. And of course, as always, a monumental shout out to our Kwisatz Haderach level patrons, Daniel Dion, Seth Redden-Greer, Brad Hutchins, Kevin Mahinram, and Roger Young. Fellas, if I was on the battlefield and I found out that I had somehow lost the ability to tell you thank you, I would demand 100 squawkers. Get those squawkers active.
That's right.
I need to tell them thank you, however far they are.
Why didn't we have backup
we need
squawkers?
Backups right now for the Kwisatz Haderach patrons. It's that important.
What if they don't know how grateful we are?
Tell them as quickly as possible. And of course, this thank you extends to all of our patrons at every level. We're all in this battle together. And y'all make this show possible. So thank you so much.
That's right. And of course, we understand if you don't have the funds right now, money's tight, the economy is in shambles. The Strait of Hormuz, as of recording, is still not open. We understand.
True. Cost of podcasting skyrocketing.
Right. Oil prices actually correlate directly with cost of production, so we're kind of fucked right now.
We run on crude.
We understand money is tight, and if you don't have the means to be a monthly supporter on Patreon, that's totally A-okay. There's another great way for you to say thank you and show your appreciation. Check out the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes below. That is a wonderful way to send us a one-time tip to say thank you and to help us keep the show running.
Indeed.
And we appreciate it greatly.
We do indeed. So, with housekeeping out of the way, let's talk about today's plan. As always, this is a book club episode. So, you all know the game plan. We're going to start with the summary of today's insanely action-packed chapters. We will dive into a takeaway that I'm sure is going to bring the mood down. And finally, we're going to wrap up with some ooey-gooey, yummy spice morsels. But before we do all of that, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. When we're back, we're going to war.
Welcome back, folks. Let's dive in to our chapter summaries today, starting with Chapter 40. In our first chapter today, Teg launches the attack on Camus. Folks, we're right in the middle of it. He is standing at his command bay on the flagship, looking down on Camus, coordinating the attack. And to really paint this picture for you, don't forget that we're not talking grizzled, old, 7-foot-tall Miles Teg, commander of the Bene Gesserit army. No, we're talking child Teg with a squeaky little voice giving out commands to everybody on his little horseshoe comlink.
Yeah.
But squeaky voice or not, the way the battle is going has instantly earned every soldier's respect. Nobody at this point is questioning whether this child, this Mickey Mouse child, is actually the legendary Miles Teg. That is the Bashar that they all know and have trusted in many battles before. And here he is doing what he does best. It's very impressive. Now, what's most impressive, and what most of the people out here don't realize, is that Teg's got a secret power.
Yeah.
He can see the no ships that they are facing on the battlefield. And he is deploying his forces to perfectly counter the no ships out there who think they're invisible.
Yeah. Oh, so cool.
Which, of course, is having devastating effect on the enemy. You know, they're completely caught with their pants down at this point. And what a little note that I found interesting is that Teg also has to hide his ability from his own troops. He can't let on that he can see the no ships. So he's like, his battle plan is sort of strategic enough to make it look like the legendary Bashar is just getting lucky or is so smart and outmaneuvering the enemy because he's kind of like using his legend as an excuse for why he's able to just like so easily obliterate the enemy and the no ships that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, he's like, classic Straga Hamanov defense where they put 2 ships in the blind side of the Astra, and everyone's like, wow, he knows so much about strategy.
Wow.
It's so cool.
It's very
cool.
I
love that idea that even amidst this very high stakes battle, Teg only trusts people as much as he has to. He keeps his cards very close to his chest when it matters. And we also see the validation of how important it is strategically in this universe to be able to see no ships, right? Like, this is the goose that laid the golden egg that people have been searching for in this galaxy for thousands of years, because the first person to nullify no ships would be unstoppable based on like modern warfare.
Right.
And we see that in action here. It's so cool.
It's very cool.
Fucking good time with this chapter. It was great.
Yeah, a great chapter. Well, let's not forget that while the attack on Gamu might be going very smoothly, Teg is out here obliterating the enemy with ease. This is not the main attack.
Yeah, bonus attack.
The attack on Gamu is simply a feint.
Yeah.
It's a distraction. It is a punishing lesson for the honored Matres. Odrade's parting words to Teg are actually ringing in his memory as he overlooks the battle. She told him, quote, "Honored Matres must be taught a lesson such as never before. Attack us, and you get hurt badly. Press us, and the pain can be enormous." End quote. This is a flex. This is the sisterhood flexing on the honored Matres.
Yeah.
Now, Teg is, of course, as we said, doing exactly that. He is putting the hurt on the honored Matre forces out here until suddenly Murbella commandeers his communications board. She hacks into his fucking console from her own ship, which is at a safe distance nearby. She overrides his controls in the middle of the battle and begins responding to a particular request from the perimeter. There's a little skirmish happening on the perimeter of the battlefield. Teg is ignoring it because it's not a major thing, but Murbella feels it's important enough to literally interrupt Teg's command and talk to the folks on this perimeter.
Yeah.
Teg obviously is furious. He's like, holy shit, you just took the controller from me?
Yeah. Let me beat the boss, Murbella. Good lord.
Boss, what the fuck, Murbella? But no, she's like, I'm the older sibling. I get the controller. Sit down. And she listens to this request from the perimeter. There's a field commander out there who is reporting that there's some refugees. They would need asylum, and that these refugees are claiming that the Sisterhood owes them sanctuary.
Interesting. Yeah.
Murbella, who has downloaded Odrade's memories, obviously also has downloaded the truth of the hidden Jews and their long relationship and coordination with the Sisterhood. Mm-hmm. And so she obviously kind of puts 2 and 2 together here, especially once they learn over the comms that the refugees are none other than the rabbi and his people.
Yeah. She puts it together quickly.
Teg confused this entire time, but Murbella obviously knows what's going on, or at least has a better picture of what's going on. So the rabbi's party is brought aboard as we near the end of this chapter. Teg stomps down to the carrier hold to meet these refugees that are so important that Murbella had to take control from him. and he finds the rabbi mid-argument with some brown-robed woman whose eyes he can't see at the moment. Murbella herself arrives from her ship to meet these people personally. She walks right up to the woman and greets her, and this is where Teg realizes what the fuck is going on here, because the woman reaches up and removes contact lenses from her eyes, revealing that she has the total blue within blue eyes of the Ibad, the eyes of someone who has gone through the agony. Here's somebody out in the wild on Gamu, not a sister, who has undergone the agony. It's Rebecca, of course, a wild Reverend Mother.
Yeah.
And we're told in this chapter that this is perhaps the first wild Reverend Mother we've encountered since the Fremen days of Dune, since the first book, thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And there's another bombshell that wraps up the end of this chapter. We learn that Rebecca is carrying something so deeply important. And this will come up later in our takeaway too. Quote, I carry lampadas, 7,622,014 Reverend Mothers, and they are rightfully yours. End quote.
God damn, I appreciate a specific
precious
number.
Cargo indeed. Yeah, very specific.
She was like, and those 14 will never be forgotten.
That's right. No rounding errors here.
Wow. What an incredible end to the chapter, and really a staggering representation. Like we heard earlier, when Odrade receives news that Lampadas is destroyed, she's shocked. No survivors. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The staggering loss of Lampadas. And now we have the number. Now we have this number of full Reverend Mothers who managed to make it via Lucilla, via Rebecca, back to the sisterhood. It's just such an insane amount of information. That's crazy.
It's huge.
Well, that carries us into chapter 41. And we are at the start of chapter 41 with Odrade. She's in the lobby of Junction's planetary shitty 2-star motel, and their escort, their honored matre attendees, are late. So rather than, fume passively, rather than get herself all worked up, she does something so fucking whimsical, I goddamn love it. She starts messing with the little, like, service robos, the, like, Roombas.
Oh my God.
Scooting around the hotel lobby. Basically just, like, putting shit in their way, kicking them off course. And then just watching them, like, have no ability to recover. Like, beep, boop. Fuck my job. No. And of course, as she does this, she thinks, quote, honored matre have little or no sense of humor, end quote, echoing some of Murbella's earlier advice. And sure enough, Dortujla, the Touge, is fucking loving it. She's just like me, smiling ear to ear. Sweeple, sweet, efficient Sweeple, is delighted, and Tam is disapproving as always, but you know, I can't help but think that she's smiling internally.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, this little prank is more than just a prank, right? This is a message. This is a subtle, psychological, deliberately absurd message aimed at the people that she knows are watching them, right? She knows they're being closely observed. Every action is being dissected and analyzed. So she's giving them this like absurd red herring to chew on. She's already begun her first move in the negotiation before anyone has even said a word. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Now, eventually, honored matre arrive. Odrade is brought before the Spider Queen. We have our official meeting of Dama, the head of the honored matre, and Odrade, the head of the Bene Gesserit.
Oh my God. The headline fight of the night.
Unbelievable. And after the like action-packed chapter just previous, there's so much whiplash from external action to internal action. Like this chapter is deeply internal. All tiny micro expressions and observations. And I really appreciated that switch of the grandeur of the Gamu Feint being this huge spectacle. And now you just have two women going toe to toe, everything on the line, right?
Yeah.
Now, Dama is nothing like the Bene Gesserit expected. Quote, a small woman, expected, stringy muscles visible under red leotards beneath her robe, face a forgettable oval with bland brown eyes, orange flecks dancing in them. End quote. Forgettable. Good Lord. All right.
Wow.
Fair enough.
Savage.
Yeah, O'Drade's like, yeah, she's like a 6, but I'm not going to remember her when I walk out of here because I'm a 10. Sweetpole's like,
Hello.
Up top, O'Drade.
O'Drade
That's
is
true.
a 10.
Yeah, for her mind alone. Now, the negotiation itself is a masterpiece of subtext, right? O'Drade is probing, she's assessing, she's actively identifying this other player that she's sitting across from in this galactic chess match.
Mm-hmm.
And she confirms Dama's key vulnerability in all of this. She cuts right to the point. The Honored Matre were driven back to the old empire and are terrified that that enemy will find them again.
Yeah. This has been hinted at for like 2 books now, and O'Drade finally confirms the theory.
It's so, I don't know, evocative. The moment where Dama is, getting pissed off, and then kind of she quiets down, and then she gets pissed off again. And there's a moment where O'Drade kind of threatens her with, well, we could make sure that they know where you are. And there's a moment of just utter stillness. And it's like Dama's afraid.
Yep.
That doesn't piss her off. That scares her.
Yeah.
I thought that was such an interesting moment because she reacts with so much anger. The moment that she doesn't react with anger is that much more profound, I think.
Right. I agree.
Now, there is also, throughout this chapter, this kind of unspoken sadness to the Honored Matres that I thought was really compelling. Like, of course, yeah, they have a lot of talk. They are strutting around in their leotards like, I'll fucking kick you in the neck. But they are exiles.
Yeah.
They want nothing more than to go back home. And there's this passage, really, this telling passage, painting this tragic picture of these bloodthirsty women. Quote, she was dealing with wealth in an extreme it would be hard for some to imagine. Nothing Dama wanted, nothing that could be provided by the society subservient to her would be denied. Nothing except freedom to go back into the scattering. End quote.
Oh my God. What a passage.
It's like she's got everything she could ever want except for the one thing she actually wants, right? It's just so...
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's beautiful. And again, her anger and her rage is disarmed by the idea of what waits for them out there and what they fled.
Right.
So their meeting takes place in a few different locales. Eventually, O'Drade is taken to what we're told are Dama's real quarters. I will admit, I've got no fucking clue if these are actually her quarters, because I feel like every other page, O'Drade was like, this is the central spider web. Oh, that was a feint. That was a made up.
Right.
Okay.
This must be it.
This
a facade.
This is the one. Oh, no, this one's a fuck. Okay. And then, truly this one.
Yeah.
Surely this one is. No, this one's also bullshit. Okay. And I think that's kind of.
Yeah.
I think that's the point. We're really not sure.
Yes. The disorientation is the point.
Yeah.
We're inside O'Drade's head, and she is putting together the pieces in real time while she is in a life and death situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Frank is writing to keep us right there with her in that experience. But we are getting the sense that these rooms that she's passing through, it's like those girls out on the field playing the sports when they arrived.
Yeah.
All of this is to flaunt and to signal a certain status of the Honored Matre. And broadly, that's all it is. Now, on the balcony, as they step out onto the balcony, O'Drade is entranced by this enigmatic sculpture. The, quote, ballet master is the name of it. It's this feathery, androgynous figure suspended on Shiga wire, dancing in the wind. Depending on how it moves in the breeze, it looks like someone walking or dancing or leaping. Sounds very cool, honestly.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And Dama very casually says one of her predecessors stole it from a planet they conquered, and that she thinks it should have been named something else, should have been named Being Unknown, which gives us maybe a bit of sense of Dama, the art curator. She's like, I don't like that title. It's like, okay, sure.
Right.
editorialize a little bit. And interestingly, this calls to mind for O'Drade Shiana's sculpture, The Void. And she kind of silently draws a parallel between the two works of art. Quote, "It's the wild thing no one can govern." End quote.
Wow.
Which, you know, for an organization like the Bene Gesserit, who their whole shtick is maybe being a farmer, maybe being a cultivator, but also just politics, the ungovernable, the unwranglable, the unmanageable doesn't fit into that picture. So again, alarming when it's Shiana, but also makes a lot of sense when it is Dama and her love of this sculpture.
Yeah, I found it really interesting. And I think a big through line for O'Drade's character that Frank has hammered on quite a bit, you've brought this up time and time again during our book club coverage, is O'Drade's sensitivity to art. There's a reason the Van Gogh painting of the cottages speaks so deeply to her. There's a reason she woke Duncan, Idaho in the middle of the night being like, "Look at this painting, what does it make you feel?"
Yeah.
I think art to O'Drade is a deeply human thing, something that connects us to the parts of ourselves that maybe we can't articulate with mere words. And something about the art that Shiana is creating to her really strikes a resemblance to this being unknown and or this ballet master art that Dama has put up on her balcony. And the fact that there's something wild to this piece of art. There's something unknown. That's a scary concept to a Bene Gesserit who is part of an organization that loves to be in the know and loves to control all the wild things and pull all the strings.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. It's kind of antithetical to the desire for the Bene Gesserit to claim things.
Yeah.
And even the formlessness of this sculpture is not enough for Dama. She doesn't even want it to be called Ballet Master. She wants it to be called Being Unknown, even more hard to classify and hard to qualify.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Dama reveals in this conversation that what she seeks from the Bene Gesserit is their immunity to diseases. A really interesting reveal in this chapter, hinting that what drove them from the scattering might have been a biological danger, something they couldn't fight with traditional weapons. And it also becomes clear through this conversation to O'Drade that Dama is not seeking an equal alliance. She's not even considering the possibility of joining forces, but that she is offering the Bene Gesserit forgiveness if they agree to total subservience to the honored Matra.
Incredible. The arrogance.
Just that, just be totally subservient to us and we'll forgive you, it's fine. You say partners, I say our slaves, tomato, it's basically the same,
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I found this incredibly funny.
Oh, it's so good. I also wanted to point out, O'Drade clocks the fact that Dama's trying to negotiate but has no fucking clue how to do it.
Yeah.
I thought that was so fun because I think we commented on that possibility on the Dama Lucilla chapter. That's right. Lucilla kept kind of mocking Dama's inability to have a coherent conversation, but Dama was floundering, trying to how does one offer something when one also doesn't want to give up anything? It's a fascinating little moment, and O'Drade clocks it immediately. So I felt very validated by that observation.
Yeah, same.
And ultimately, you were right that this moment, this offer of, we'll be your slave masters, you'll be our slaves, everyone's going to be happy. This is the pinnacle of arrogance and vindictiveness that the Honor Matre represent. They can't even fucking picture a scenario in which they are not the dominating, all-powerful force.
Yeah.
And O'Drade realizes, I was correct to unleash Teg. That is really the only way we're going to move forward. We cannot negotiate as equals with these women, and I'm glad I've set the dominoes falling as they are currently falling during this conversation.
That's right.
Now, the chapter ends on an absolutely legendary note. And I need to reemphasize that while I have read this book before, I don't remember all of the details. I
Yeah.
Didn't see this coming for a second time. This caught me off guard twice. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, Logno. You remember Logno? Logno comes in, brings in some wine for Dama and Odrade, and Dama assures Odrade, hey, it's not poisoned, takes a sip. Odrade sips, detecting a foreign substance, and identifies it as something that is intended to nullify the shear in her body, right? This is a organic compound that's supposed to make her more permeable to T-probes so that they can get her memories. She neutralizes it.
That's right.
And then she fucking tells them she neutralized it, which is such a fun thing. Oh my God,
the flex.
I know. She downs her glass, chugs a glass of wine. Hey, yeah, that was had a active biological component. I deactivated it though, so no worries. Your plans have failed. I enjoyed a glass of wine. Everyone's going great. Dama's super pissed by this. She's like, someone's gonna die. Fuck this. I'm so pissed. She takes a moment. She looks out to her vineyards. And Logno watches the great Honored Matre expectantly. Odrade realizes what just happened as Dama collapses dead on the floor.
Oh my God.
And thus...
Classic.
Dama's dead. And now Logno is the new Spider Queen. And she announces herself, quote, "You will call me Great Honored Matre, and you will learn to thank me for it." End quote.
Wow.
What a fucking day. I feel like you go into this meeting and you go, okay, Odrade or Dama are going to die, right? And then Odrade survives and you go, well, Dama died. And you're right, but it's Logno that kills her. And now Logno's the boss. Fascinating. What a fucking incredible twist.
Truly. I did not see it coming, and honestly, it got me a second time. And I found it so incredibly funny how Dama just got by Logno in this moment. No, R.I.P. Dama, she was a real one, but this was such an incredible scene. Good on Logno for taking an opportunity.
She dresses for the job she wants. She really goes for it. But I also do think that there's an element here where we saw throughout Dama and Logno's interactions in the book where Logno is too close to Dama and Dama's like, you back the fuck up 3 centimeters. I see you within kicking distance. What do you want to do? Die?
Yeah.
And we see how cautious she is of Logno, but maybe it is testament to how dire the Honored Matre's situation is and how bad everything's going, where, Odrade's pilot detonates himself. That confuses Dama, right? R.I.P. to Clairby, who blew himself up in this chapter, I believe.
That's right. Gola him.
Gola the cyborg. But also this attack on Gamu's happening and all of this shit's going on. This is perhaps another kind of show don't tell moment from Frank, showing us exactly how distracted and off her game Dama is, no matter how confident she presents herself.
Yeah.
That she let Logno get her with something as fucking simple as poisoning her,
I think that's a great point. The fact that she got so easily by such a simple trick, I think, is a subtle reveal to us that Dama is extremely off kilter at this moment.
Yeah.
She's on the back foot in every sense and probably just grasping at straws to maintain power. Gamu's under attack. The Sisterhood has the upper hand on us. We're totally fucked. And Logno's like, great, I'm going to use this instability and I'm going to get this lady.
Yeah.
I've been trying for years.
Yeah. She's distracted. Her mind's occupied.
Yeah.
It's really an interesting little moment that we move on from basically immediately, just the crumpled body on the floor. And then we're like, all right. And now we've got a new Spider Queen. And
that's right.
Let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Great chapter. This was a highlight for me in this entire book.
Yeah, same.
The confrontation between Odrade and Dama and then the Logno twist at the end. I was like, chef's kiss. Great chapter, start to finish.
Same. Great time.
Okay, let's wrap up our summary. One more chapter to go. Chapter 42. This one, we are thrust right into the Battle of Junction itself. It's happening, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout this chapter, we get these like really cinematic, I could really like picture this chapter in my mind, the way that Frank wrote it. We get these like really cinematic cuts between a couple of different perspectives. We start the chapter from Mirbella's perspective. She is watching the battle take place from her no ship's command center. She's watching from, obviously there's comm eyes on the ground showcasing, every aspect of the battle so that the commanders can keep an eye on it. And she's watching the events take place.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is she's processing this battle through this metaphor of the Roman circus. She almost sees Tag as like the ringmaster, right? Like leading his troops. And this gives the battle this like sort of detached quality. Like obviously there's bloodshed and horror taking place on the screens in front of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's also like a strange beauty to it. There's like a strange ballet and pattern and performance to it all. And I think Frank does a good job of balancing Mirbella's perspective here. She recognizes that these are real people getting hurt down there and that war is terrible. But as many stories about war have explored, there is like a weird attraction, and beauty is maybe not the right word, but some sort of like poetic aspect of war, just because humans have been at war so much. And I think Frank somehow balances that really well in this chapter from Mirbella's perspective as she watches what's going on.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be condemning, but it is captivating.
Yeah, that's a great word.
The idea of warfare and the human cost and everything. Frank plays with this a lot, with this idea of like war and violence as a sort of release of tensions. And in the same way that you might have a cathartic release of joyous tensions and sexual tensions and all sorts of things, I think that this is just that same continuity or that same spectrum of tension release that Frank writes a lot about in his books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like without judgment, just saying like it is marvelous. I also have to imagine seeing Teg in action, seeing anyone be great at something. It has that kind of air of like...
There's a spectacle to it.
Yeah, it is spectacle for sure. Yeah.
That's true. And there's also the detached quality of Mirbella is up in a no ship in space watching what's happening. I'm sure the experience of what's actually happening on the ground is dramatically different for the folks down there.
Very true.
So there, I think that's a layer to it as well. Now, an important note that we learn about what else is going on in this no ship, and perhaps most importantly what's going on in this no ship, is that there are Mother Superiors aboard this no ship with Mirbella who are hanging out with Rebecca in the other room, downloading Rebecca's memories in a process of extremis progressiva. And we're going to be talking a lot about extremis progressiva later on in our takeaway. But essentially, they are taking those 7 million-ish. I mean, I'm going to round because I forget what the exact number was.
14.
7 million
something 14.
That's right.
12? Oh, shit.
They need to preserve all of those memories from Lampadas that are right now sitting inside one person, Rebecca. So they are spreading those far and wide, from one sister to 2 sisters to 4 sisters to 16 sisters, and trying to make sure that those precious 7 million memories are never lost. And so that is taking place in the other room in the no ship. Now, we switch perspective and we go right down to the battlefield. Now we're with Teg. And in this short little section, Teg is really in the thick of it, assaulting the citadel of the Honored Matre, and his command pod, through which he has been directing the battlefield, gets hit with a laser, and it's blown up, and he turns to one of his subordinates, and he's like, that's okay. We always have backups, right? Get me to the other backup command pod. And the subordinate's like, oh shit, we don't have a backup command pod. And I could like feel Teg's anger through these words here. I was like, oh, you do not tell Teg there's no backup command pod and that we fucked up and didn't do our jobs. But that's exactly what happened. He's furious, obviously, but look, his response is that of a soldier who has seen many battlefields. He's like, shit happens. It's war. It's a battle.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I get it. Let's improvise. He like grabs some squawkers, which seem to be some sort of mobile radios, and orders another command pod down and, gets to it. Gets back to it, doesn't skip a beat. This is Miles Tegg in his element on the battlefield, doing what he does best. Now, finally, and perhaps most importantly, we switch perspective to O'Drade herself, which for most of this chapter, folks have been assuming is dead because her signal has been completely cut off ever since Logno took power, and they have no idea whether or not they will find O'Drade alive and well in the Citadel once they breach it, or they will find her body. But once we switch to her perspective, we realize that she is still alive, and Logno has taken her prisoner. O'Drade is, in fact, watching Tegg out the window, assaulting the Citadel as the armies come closer, and she's assessing everything around her. She's now been taken to a different room, a different command center.
But this one's real. This
one's
like,
is this the real one?
We promise this one's real.
Is it? Are you sure?
No, even we don't know anymore. We just work wherever we are.
Right. Even the Honored Matra is so confused. They're like, fuck, which one was the fake command room and which one's the real one?
Meet you in command room B7? Is that the real B7 or is that the fucking fake B7? Oh, no.
So we're in a command room. Logno clearly not having a great time watching her forces get defeated by Miles Tegg out there in the window. And in fact, the final defensive perimeter of the Citadel, the stronghold of the Honored Matre here on the planet, collapses, and it becomes clear that Miles Tegg has won. The battle is over. And so Logno turns to O'Drade and announces, quote, "You have won this battle. We are your prisoners." End quote.
Dude.
Wow, victory. That was kind of easy.
This whole fucking chapter made me so uncomfortable. Like,
I know.
The fact that, because she also walks to within a pace of O'Drade to tell her that. And I'm like, when's the fucking kick coming? Like,
yes.
Oh my God, I was so tense.
Yes.
The whole chapter. And even after this, like, hey, we're your prisoners. Where do you want us to go? I was like, no, something's wrong. And of course, we'll get the whole, like, yeah, something is wrong in a second. But man, again, just what good writing that we got this partial victory.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, the battle is over.
Right.
But something's not quite right. And how do you write that?
Yes.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's such delicate writing to be able to make a victory feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
That is hard to do. And again, Frank Herbert, a very experienced writer by this time in his career, does it so well in this chapter. And you're right. That feeling you had the whole chapter is absolutely correct. When Tegg finally links up with O'Drade, the two of them also have the same feeling. They're like, this was kind of easy, right? Like, how did we just win this? And how do they give up so quickly?
Yeah.
And Tegg especially is on edge. He senses something is wrong. He's looking out at the battlefield from the command tower, one of the fake command towers, who knows? And he's realizing that the casualties are just like way too low. This is not the Honored Matre that we've been preparing to fight for years. This should have been a much tougher and much bloodier battle. And in fact, looking out on the battlefield, he doesn't even see like that much bloodshed out there. Like, it's kind of a clean battlefield for taking over the Honored Matre and defeating them once and for all.
Yeah.
You'd expect it to be much worse.
Yeah.
And again, Tegg's decades of battlefield experience are setting off alarms. He realizes something's off here, man. This is not right. And the chapter ends on exactly that ominous note. Tegg says, quote, "They have a weapon we have not yet discovered." End quote. They have a trump card, folks, and they are preparing to use it. This is a bluff.
Dude, it was
They're not giving
so spooky. So spooky. To be like, there's no blood on those bodies. What killed them? Oh, fuck, this isn't over yet.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's not over. Oh, so good.
You mentioned how, like, cinematic this is. This, like, cinematic intercut. This is such the end of an episode right before the fucking credits roll.
That's right. It's so good. Yeah. This is pure cinema for sure. What a great chapter. And honestly, like, that wraps up our chapter summaries. And I will say, this is a great set of 3 chapters. Like, completely action-packed, but also with that classic Frank Herbert, 2 people in a room talking and you're on the edge of your seat. Like, the O'Drade Dama chapter could not have been more thrilling, and it's crammed between literally 2 Miles Tag Battlefield chapters, and all 3 of them feel equally thrilling and exciting and cinematic. I was a big fan of today's reading.
Yeah, dude, same. And ultimately, like, I know that a lot of people's complaints about Chapterhouse are the kind of slow burn chapters at the beginning, but I think that's the whole point. And I think that these chapters feel so vivid and visceral because it took so long to get here. I do think about, like, Brian's books do have a lot of action in them, a lot more of this kind of stuff, but it's just always, it's like cover to cover. So it just kind of feels exhausting. And to like hold off until this late stage in the book to get these kind of moments, it's so great. I don't know. It's very fun. And I think we have a lot more of the philosophy and sort of what is at stake and what is this battle of minds. What are the stakes and who are these players? We have very clear answers to those questions in this moment of very high stakes, where at any moment, it felt like Odrade could be lost. The feeling of this character who was so comfortable on Chapterhouse, walking between orchards and, you know, always 6 steps ahead of everyone, it just feels so much more vulnerable because we've had all of these, you know, the last 2 books of her basically being in charge.
Right.
It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, you can't claim that Frank Herbert is not the master of his setup.
Yeah.
You could criticize him that he perhaps takes too long setting things
too many
up.
Setups.
But the man knows how to set up the stakes.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, so that wraps up our chapter summaries. We are so close to the end of this book. I'm truly on the edge of my seat. Let's take a quick break, Leo. When we come back, we're going to get into a takeaway. The takeaway is a bit of a bummer, but it's important to talk about. So
Indeed.
We'll dive in after this. We'll see you in a minute, folks.
Welcome back, everybody. We hope you enjoyed your break. All right, let's get into our takeaway today. Our takeaway today is about Extremis Progressiva. Throughout the last 2 books, Frank has made the nature of the Bene Gesserit other memory extremely clear. This is not just a cool parlor trick that Bene Gesserit Reverend Mothers can do. This is the stories. This is the goals. This is the extended experiences. But it's also the dogma, it's the institution, it's the wisdom. And we're kind of realizing today, it is also the culture of the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
It is the identity of the Bene Gesserit. And Extremis Progressiva is the Bene Gesserit final kind of extreme effort to preserve as much of it as possible in the face of potential annihilation. From today's reading, we get this description. Quote, millions of memory lives, all concentrated in what the sisterhood called Extremis Progressiva, 2 by 2, then 4 by 4, and 16 by 16, until each held all of them, and any survivor could preserve the precious accumulation. End quote.
Yeah.
So it's this exponential airdropping, where you eventually have every person has every copy, and now only one person needs to survive. And honestly, we've already gotten a success story, a tragic success story of this happening. Lampetus was destroyed. Odrade asked any survivors, no reported survivors, but Lucilla got away. Lucilla was, as far as we know, the only survivor of the entire planet, and through Rebecca, was able to save the collective memories of over 7 million and 14 Reverend Mothers. Absolutely astounding. But this also got us thinking. As always, Frank uses his writing, right, to channel the real world through his lens, explore maybe what humans are capable of, both on the good side and the bad side. You know, exterminating a culture is horrendous, unspeakably evil, and the efforts that some individuals will go to save their cultures can be unspeakably heroic and unimaginably courageous and incredible. And Frank, as always, channels both sides of those coins through this 30 or 40,000 year filter into the timeline of Dune. So along those lines, this is very robust setup, but along those lines, we wanted to take a look at some historical examples of the Bene Gesserit, extremis progressiva, a couple of real examples of cultures and the means they used to preserve themselves in their final hours. You know, one of the most kind of incredible things a culture can do when it's being hunted down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think we both feel that it's most appropriate to start with World War II and the Nazis' treatment of the Jewish people and the Romani people.
Yeah.
Given that the rabbi and Rebecca and the hidden Jews are such a predominant part of this book.
Right. Yeah.
Now, looking back at the history of it, again, we're going to be briefly summarizing. We're not experts on this material, and we can't possibly cover all of it. But looking back at it in the context of extremis progressiva and this idea of preserving culture, beyond the literal killing and serialization of Jewish people themselves, the Nazis also specifically targeted Jewish and ethnic intellectual and cultural life. It wasn't just about the people and eradicating them. It was about eradicating their entire culture and history and what it meant to be a Jewish person. They would burn books. There was looting. There was destroying of archives. There was a total erasure of these people and their culture. The Holocaust Encyclopedia puts it this way, quote, "This included books by Jewish authors, pacifist works that criticized war, and works praising or promoting leftist political movements such as socialism and communism."
Yeah.
End quote. And you'll note in that quote from the Holocaust Encyclopedia, it wasn't just about erasing Jewish religious texts, right? It didn't just stop there. It was about erasing anything that went against the Nazi worldview, anything that aligned even loosely with a Jewish perspective or Jewish ideologies.
Right. Or like non-Nazi perspectives, right? Like even democratic intellectuals were getting rounded up, and homosexuals and Romanis and people who didn't fit this like nationalistic Nazi worldview were fair game, right?
That's right. And so, and we say all of this to, again, emphasize the point that the erasure went well beyond the rounding up and murdering of the Jewish people themselves. And you mentioned the Romani. In particular, I think what's tragic about the Romani is they were a predominantly oral culture with very little written traditions. And the Roma Holocaust, the Holocaust of the Romani people, was devastating for entire families and clan networks who were the primary carriers of their traditions, right? It was these clan members that would pass down through generations, through their oral culture and oral storytelling, their culture and traditions and history. And when you eradicate those people, when you break those networks of families and clans, you also erase the carriers of those traditions and histories. So bringing this around to the idea of extremis progressiva, how did the resistance against this kind of eradication crystallize? Well, one example that you dug up in your research was the, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, it was the Oyneg Shabes archive?
Your guess is as good as mine. Yeah.
Yeah, someone please correct us.
Yeah.
A group secretly buried tens of thousands of documents, testimonies, artwork, and records inside the Warsaw Ghetto in everything from milk cans to tin boxes, so that future generations would know what had happened and how Jewish life had been lived. So that feels very akin to the Bene Gesserit downloading the memories of the Lampadas horde, who are dead, right? They've been eradicated, they no longer exist, but through Rebecca, they are able to at least hold on to those memories and the culture there.
Yeah, man. Honestly, this is where I feel like my schooling was just so inadequate, where we're doing a Dune podcast and we're learning about, and we're choosing to step outside of talking explicitly about Dune and looking more at like human history.
Yeah.
But I always learned so much doing this kind of research. And
same
between Emanuel Ringelblum, who was the organizer of the Oyneg Shabes, again, deep apologies for not knowing how to say that, and also the shockingly long journey of the Romani people for even being recognized as victims of Nazi extermination. I was seeing as late as like the 60s, there was the opinion that they were just, it was like, oh yeah, well they were criminals, so that's why they were killed. And then it was recognized as, it was like racial and cultural targeting. Today was a lot of learning.
Yeah.
And it's very sobering stuff.
It is.
I know that this is people's lives and this is people's family histories. And it just maybe doesn't get the time and attention it deserves, because again, makes me that much more hesitant when people are talking about banning or burning books and trying to repress people and their cultures today. It's like, have we learned fucking nothing from history?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've heard that from a lot of Jewish friends too, about like currently Palestine and like what's going on there, and friends in Ukraine and their families. It's like, it is this repetition of violence, and it really is not acceptable.
Yeah.
No matter who is perpetrating it, basically at all, right?
Right. And I suppose the silver lining here is that the work and sacrifices of the people who created the Shabbos archive and who contributed to it and have continued to cultivate it, and the families and clans who continue to carry on the Romani oral traditions, the silver lining and perhaps the lesson there is always a way to fight back, that there is always a way to preserve. And there is always a way to say, no, my people, my beliefs, my culture, my history, they matter. They deserve to be written down. They deserve to be passed on. And the generations that will come after me need to know about them. And I think there is a sad and tragic but powerful message there.
Totally.
That people who were being eradicated chose to create something and contribute to something that passed on well past their lives in order to preserve who they were and how they lived.
Yeah, so incredible. I mean, milk cans and tin boxes to preserve culture. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, another real world example that came to mind is the Cultural Revolution in China, which in the 60s began in earnest a decades-long war against the so-called Four Olds. Now, according to the National Archives, these Four Olds were, quote, old ideas, old culture, old customs, and old habits. This included intellectuals, scientists, and senior officials, end quote. So I was raised Tibetan Buddhist and in Berkeley, California, which is not a coincidence that they happen in the same place. Berkeley, California has got a lot of hippies, and I'm not innocent of that label. But I grew up hearing, Free Tibet, and I grew up hearing about the plight of the Tibetan culture. And this is that, if you've ever heard that. Basically, temples, monasteries in China and adjacent to China. So Tibet is a region in China, for instance. Temples, monasteries, classical texts were systemically destroyed. And in particular, Tibet really did suffer this huge destruction of Buddhist monastic culture. And it's honestly wild how much, first of all, this is still happening. For anyone who wants to get into fun Tibetan Buddhist tea, the Panchen Lama was named by the Chinese government as someone who can help name the next Dalai Lama, who's the head of the Tibetan people and Tibetan Buddhism. And Tibetans are like, no, you can't name the next Tibetan Lama. Like, we have our process for identifying the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. And the Chinese government's kind of actively trying to take the reins of Tibetan Buddhism. And honestly, the other thing that kind of blows me away is just like how much this isn't really talked about. And I get it. Like, the Dalai Lama is kind of a niche subject for a lot of people, but like Tibetan Buddhism is a pretty sizable sect within one of the biggest religions in the world. And the fact that it's literally hanging in the balance is really, it seems under-discussed to me. But this is also my bias as someone who was raised in the culture.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. How did resistance take shape? And in this case, families, individuals hid books, they hid artifacts, they stashed and stored ancestral records. A huge number of Buddhist monks and scholars fled to India. And in fact, the community, the Tibetan exile community in Dharamsala under the Dalai Lama became actually deliberately a living archive of Tibetan religious and cultural knowledge, which felt very on the nose because this is almost literally an extremist progressiva, right? They are intentionally,
Yeah.
removing themselves from the dangerous area and dedicating themselves to preserving that culture. And in fact, the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives was founded in 1970, basically explicitly for this purpose. So that's also why, by the way, the Dalai Lama hasn't been back to Tibet in like 70 years, because they fled. They fled to India. They fled into exile so that they wouldn't be persecuted.
Wow.
And I also wanted to talk about this partially because we've seen Frank dip his little tootsies into Buddhist ideology throughout the last 6 books. So I feel pretty comfortable. My tinfoil hat theory is that he would have been very cognizant of all of this, especially in the 60s and 70s, as Berkeley and like the West Coast were like protesting free Tibet, all of that. I feel like it would have been on his radar. So additionally, I see this as a pretty clear, maybe this was in his head. I'm going to go out and say, I think for Frank, as he was writing about the Bene Gesserit extremis progressiva, I think the plight of Tibet might have been one of the things he was considering, in addition to very obviously the Jewish people and what they've dealt with, as Rebecca and the rabbi are prominent characters in this book, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And folks, if you're listening to this and you're going, oh, well, this Tibet thing sounds like it was like 50 years ago. This is like happening today too.
Yeah.
Like right now.
Yeah.
The Dalai Lama is aging out, and there's a huge succession question hanging in the balance. And China is doing everything it can to control that succession and sway that succession in order to subsume Tibet back into its culture and to basically wipe out its independence. So I definitely encourage folks to look into it. It is both fascinating and deeply sad and horrifying how the Tibetan people are holding on to the culture by what seems like a very thin thread. There's a great YouTube video by the channel Search Party that I highly recommend about this, about the history of the Dalai Lama and the many like crazy attempts by the Chinese government to subvert the Dalai Lama and to like install their own fake Dalai Lama and cause like a schism within the belief. It's wild. Yeah. So this stuff is like literally happening today. It's not just stuff from like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. And honestly, like Religion for Breakfast posted a video recently because the Dalai Lama announced that he would potentially announce his succession plan on his 92nd birthday, which was like very recent. And he didn't. But leading up to that, the Religion for Breakfast YouTube channel talked a little bit about this. And I thought, man, what a fucking weird time to be a Tibetan Buddhist. Good thing I'm not. Oh, no. Like, oh, shit. That's, oh, no. So anyway, it is very, it's currently going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad PR move to be like, we're going to kill all your people and commit a genocide. And it's much more sneaky to just do a very slow, multi-generational genocide based on your policies. And that appears to be what's happening, or what China is at least attempting to do in Tibet.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on from those two examples, we do want to acknowledge that there's just simply no way this takeaway can be comprehensive. Human history is full of examples of extremist progressiva, cultures that are pushed to the brink of extinction, and thanks to the brave record-keeping and sacrifices of a few people, those cultures and their histories survive in some way, shape, or form and are maintained, which is the essence of extremist progressiva for the Bene Gesserit. But really briefly, we did want to just touch on a couple of other examples that we felt are notable. Again, we'd be here for years if we tried to cover every example of this. And of course, there are examples we will never know about because those cultures weren't preserved and they were eradicated. Yeah. And nothing remains of their history and their people and their traditions. So very quickly, of course, there's Ukraine under the Soviet persecution. That is a very modern day example currently taking place. There was Afghanistan under Taliban rule, the Mayans and Aztec erased by the Spanish conquistadors. Of course, very similar to that here in the United States, the eradication of indigenous peoples' culture and subjugation by U.S. policies. I was absolutely shocked when, after I watched Killers of the Flower Moon, the Scorsese film, I read the book, which goes into much more detail, and it is just horrifying. The very conscious and deliberate choices that the United States made to completely destroy the indigenous people and their culture. Speaking of inadequate education, I wish someone in school had taught me that shit.
Yeah. No kidding.
Because I didn't learn it until my 30s when I chose to pick up a book and read about it myself.
Yeah. The forced charter schools where people were it was like separated from their parents and state approved. It's so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Education is a very dangerous tool that you can wield to eradicate someone's culture, right? Like, and it can be subtle. It doesn't even have to be forced. It can be like, oh, whoops. The nicest and most well-funded school for 50 miles happens to be our very Christian white school. I guess you got to send your kids here. There's no other options.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you do your best to erase a whole generation of people. And like that was very deliberately happening to the indigenous people in the United States, where you limit their options to create a better life for themselves. And the only way to do that is if they assimilate. And that is a tale as old as time. Extremis progressiva is a tale as old as time, tragically, in human history. These are just a couple of examples from history. Of course, there are countless more.
Yeah. So wrapping up, just to bring this back fully to Dune and where all of this connects together, I think one of the things that jumped out at me as we were doing this research is the common thread of, in communities facing existential cultural threats, the formation of kind of specialized carriers or individuals or groups, small groups, who dedicate themselves to doing this good thing, preserving the culture in the face of that threat. And whether this was individuals like elders or scribes, right? We see archivists, we see people, individuals, take action to organize the memories and the stories and the language of the group into a form that can outlast the suppressive efforts of the persecutor. It's this really powerful pattern that starts to emerge. And for the Bene Gesserit, with their extremis progressiva, this can be literally any Bene Gesserit, where in the modern age, one person can organize a group of people to gather as many stories as possible. Even in the archives from World War II for that Jewish community, I think only 2 of the 3 major burial sites were found. So there was a loss of information despite their efforts. And here we see the superpowered ability of the Bene Gesserit. Not only is other memory, this thing that whispers to you and threatens you with abomination and whatever, it's also the superpower of carrying all of the memories and lives of millions.
Yeah.
Akin to other things in Dune, this is really just Frank Herbert's kind of distillation of this human pattern of these specialized carriers taken to a biological extreme. And we thought that was really interesting. We thought that shined a new light on other memory as not only this power, we've talked about how it's a restriction, how it's the shackles of dogma, how it's creepy and weird over the years, but seeing it also as this lifeline for cultures to persevere is also really beautiful. And honestly, first time I had thought about it in those terms.
Yeah, same here. I had always pictured it as a superpower, as an incredibly thorough Google search in your brain that you can instantly tap into.
Right.
But to also think of it as an archive, as a library of lives and traditions and histories, I think that adds more weight to the concept of other memory and the idea of passing it on and passing it down.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our takeaway for today. Let's talk about our spice morsels before we wrap up today's episode. We got a couple of good ones for you, folks.
We do indeed. Let's dive right in. Hope you're hungry. Let's start with arabesques. So in today's reading, when Odrade is first approached by the honored matres, we get this description of them. Quote, 2 women came in through an arched doorway from the flagstones. Both wore red robes with glittering arabesques and dragon shapes on them. Sioux stones shattered for decorations. End quote. And it's always fun when Frank actually takes the time and uses the words to describe someone and something, which is something he rarely does in these books.
I know. I was like, holy shit, adjectives. My God. You're eating well today.
Exactly.
This is great.
Exactly. So we wanted to take this opportunity to really picture how these women are dressed when they come to meet Odrade, and in particular dig into arabesques, which is a word that not everyone may be familiar with. So, to define that word, Merriam-Webster defines arabesques as, quote, an ornament or style that employs flower, foliage, or fruit, and sometimes animal and figural outlines to produce an intricate pattern of interlaced lines, end quote. So this is an art style, arabesques, and it's tough to describe over audio, so honestly, we recommend you pause for a second and just Google arabesques and check out some of the patterns. They're really pretty stuff. Honestly, the best way I can describe it is I grew up around arabesque styles my entire life because these are very like Middle Eastern. Like if you've seen a Middle Eastern rug, if you've bought a rug and it has like what you might typically think as like a Middle Eastern pattern on it, that's arabesque. Very flowery patterns that repeat and have a lot of interlacing lines.
Yeah.
The word itself, looking into its etymology, it has roots in Latin and Arabic and Italian. For example, in Italian, arabesco means Arabian fashion, literally the style of Arabia. And in French, arabesque also means Arabian style. And of course, it's finally found its way to English as the word arabesque. Now, one quick note about this word and its definition: it can also be used to describe a posture in ballet, which feels a little bit notable because the honored maitre, we know, are these lithe, muscular women who use their bodies to great effect. And of course, in the reading today, we literally have reference to the ballet master, this work of art hanging on Dama's balcony. So we are starting to paint this very visual picture of honored maitre culture and what it might look like when you actually meet these women. So to wrap up, now we have a clearer picture of how the honored maitre are dressed when they strut into this room
Yeah.
to meet with Odrade.
Yeah.
You can clearly picture some of the bling that the shattered Sioux stones for decorations, the patterns that might be on their clothing in arabesque style, and the colors that they're wearing, the bright reds and the blacks. It's a striking image.
Yeah, very subtle. It's great. Well, for our next morsel, we've got Potemkin villages.
This is great.
Get ready. It's not what you think it is. Maybe it is. Who's to say? In today's reading, we get a real understanding of the song and dance the honored maitre are performing for the Bene Gesserit guests, and Odrade has this thought, quote, "So other action centers were for show. Potemkin villages built for Reverend Mother." Now, we, of course, rolled up our sleeves. Abu, did you know this term before we did this episode?
I did know this term, yeah. I didn't know the entire history of it. I just knew like what it means.
I have heard it. I don't know that I could have told you, like, if someone had said, hey, have you heard this? I'd say, yes, I've heard it. But I don't know that I could have defined it. So you're a step ahead of me. But for sure, I didn't know any of this fucking history. So this is fun. This is cool.
Yeah, the history's fun.
Basically, to talk about Potemkin villages, we got to spit some bars about Grigory Potemkin, a Russian army officer and statesman born in 1739. What a great year. And a favorite of Empress Catherine the Great. Ever heard of her? And Grigory has a fucking wild life. There are so many anecdotes about this dude. Among those anecdotes are his shenanigans setting up a grand imperial tour for Catherine of this newly acquired kind of southern territory. This is from Britannica. Quote, "Catherine's tour of the South in 1787 was a triumph for Potemkin, for he disguised all the weak points of his administration, hence the apocryphal tale of his erecting artificial villages to be seen by the Empress in passing. Potemkin Village came to denote any pretentious facade designed to cover up a shabby or undesirable condition. End quote. So it's worth noting the tale of him building these villages along the riverbank, right? Having people erect this village before they're in line of sight. They see it from a distance, this cardboard cutout of a fucking village. And then they go, wow, what a great village along the riverbed. And then they continue their march down the river. And as they're out of sight, they deconstruct it, run down the street with it, set it up a little bit further down to reuse the materials. It is unknown how exaggerated this is, like how historical this is, but this is actually the origin of the very real term, whether it was the full rigmarole, he's building downtown Disney every fucking, mile or so, or it was just maybe a subtle dressing of make sure there are extra people, or whatever. Potemkin Village today refers to any construction, even policy or presentation intended to hide a shittier reality from outside observers. And I have to say, if you want to have a good old time, just image search Potemkin villages. There are some fucking incredible examples online. I saw this brewery in the Czech Republic where the entire front of it is this like brightly painted, it looks great, blue and white, it's beautiful. And then you circle around to the back and it's fucking falling apart. It's terrible. It's like in ruins. So much fun. I think it's called Castle Brewery. So cool. And honestly, I also wanted to pat myself in the back. Connection I made last episode in discussions of Potemkin villages, North Korea does come up often, in part because of, and I don't know, Kijongdong, I think, this uninhabited town. This was a full town constructed in the 1950s to lure South Koreans into defecting. Look how great everything's going. They were blasting propaganda messages loudly. Oh, it sure is fun here. We're having a great old time. Oh, good. Everything's great. For years. And then South Korea started blasting counter propaganda across the border. Again, things I wish I knew earlier. And fun fact, their most recent campaign of loudspeaker propaganda only stopped in 2018 on the day of my 28th birthday. I don't know that they're related, but I suspect they are. And I appreciate the silence that I was gifted from the North and South Koreans. Anyway, all of that's very interesting. Back to Dune. All of this rings profoundly true for the Honored Matre, not only in their treatment of Junction for the benefit of Otrade's party, but also I think in their broader attitude as well. And that's why I'm really glad I looked into this because, of course there's the obvious example, something that Grigory would be very fond of, the thousands of young women playing with a suspensor ball when Otrade arrived, literally Potemkin village behavior. But less literally than that, and I think even more subtly, Dama, in her final hour, as she is so off foot, she misses poison in the wine, she was absolutely strutting. Oh, at any moment now you can bend and kiss my ring. Anytime, when you feel moved to. I'm sure it'll happen any second now. Her attitude of superiority, I think, is a prime example of a sort of mental Potemkin village. It's this like shiny, glitzy facade. The shattered Sioux stones on their beautiful arabesque, leotards. Great. Internally, fucking panicking. And it's not all what it appears. Right?
Right. Exactly.
And honestly, I wanted to shout out the fish speaker in God Emperor of Dune, who was captured by the Tleilax. So I think we learned about them in chapter 5. The Honored Matre have fallen for their own bluff. Recall the quote, long pretense creates a reality, end quote. I think they are living in their shitty cardboard cutout villages that they've constructed in their minds, and maybe they don't even know it.
Yeah, that's a great call out. It's a delicate house of cards, and there's no foundation actually holding it up. Maybe it looks impressive from far away, but boy, is it easily toppled. One glass of wine, is all it takes, apparently.
Yeah, and then you're toppling houses of cards everywhere. And I get it. Your coordination's bad. You had a glass of wine. It's fine. But
right, you can't walk straight,
Yeah.
Great research there. The history behind Potemkin Village. So fascinating.
Super fun.
All right, folks. That's today's episode. My goodness. What a great one. Again, loved these set of chapters. Here's your homework for the next book club episode. Folks, my goodness. The end is nigh. For the next book club episode, make sure that you have read up to page 481, which is chapters 43, 44, and 45. And if your version of the book is different than ours, then just read through the chapter that ends on this sentence. Quote, with an abruptness that chilled her, she knew his decision. End quote. Oh my God, decisions are being made.
Oh my God, he decided to finally watch Discovering Witches on Netflix. No. Yeah. Wow. All right. Yeah, what did he decide?
Yeah.
We'll have to wait to find out, I guess.
I'm looking forward to it. That next episode, part 15, will be the penultimate.
So crazy.
The Chapterhouse Book Club coverage is 16 episodes.
All 6 books.
Folks, we are really in the end game now.
That's insane. Well, before we let you go, dear listener, we want to remind you of some ways to support the show and to keep in touch with us. And the 2 best ways, you'll never guess it's the same 2 as we've talked about all the other episodes. One is become a patron over at patreon.com/GamJabar. The other is to get some Dune-themed swag from our merch store, gamjabar.shop. Those links are in the show notes. I'm hard at work making some new merch. Check it out. It's fun stuff. It's all very cool, and we really, really cannot thank you enough for the support. It makes what we do possible.
And of course, we love to hear from you. So please email us, gamjabarpodcast@gmail.com. Send us your thoughts. Send us your questions. Of course, send us cute pictures of your pets. As we near the end of this book, we will be hosting a live Q&A, a mailbag episode all about Chapterhouse Dune. So now is a great time to email us your questions, gamjabarpodcast@gmail.com, so that we have enough time to do our research and answer them properly and include them in that final episode. So write to us and say hello.
Yeah. Tell us, how many arabesques do you have in your home?
Yeah.
And also, when have you put on a performance for someone that could be described as a Potemkin village?
That's right. Fess up.
Fess up.
We've all done it.
Yeah, you're doing it right now. Stop. We can tell your village isn't that big. God.
Right. Girl, is that a Potemkin village in my pants or... Y'all know where I was going.
Well, friends, there is no real ending. It's just the place where you stop the recording. But this podcast is always one step beyond logic. So, help spread the word of Muad'Dib and leave us a review in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And be sure to check out the other shows on the Lore Party Podcast Network on loreparty.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @lore_party. We're also on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, whoever controls the podcast controls the universe. We'll see you on the golden path.